Hello everybody, I heard you want to start playing Commander, but you have no money. That's why I'm going to give you a list of the 10 best commanders that can easily be built on a budget. But before we start, I'm going to give you 5 seconds to like and subscribe. 5, 4, 3, you didn't like, did you? You didn't subscribe. You didn't. You probably went straight to the comments, didn't you? Though I'm ashamed in you, we're still going to go through our commanders. So, number 10, Rulik Mons, War-in-Chief. Rulik Mons is a Gruul commander that costs 1 red, green, green. It's a 3/3 goblin and it reads Menace. Whenever Rulik Mons, War-in-Chief attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. If you didn't put a card onto the battlefield this way, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. It's essentially a weaker Krenko mob boss, but with a ramp. However, a weaker Krenko isn't bad, since it won't get targeted immediately, and it's Gruul, so we get to use cards like Grumgully the Generous, and Goblin and Archomancer, which can really help out this deck a ton. We get to run our regular Goblin cards like Goblin Chieftain, but then we also get to have big creatures like Wart the Raid Mother. And if you really want, you can add some landfall like Pilaf World Sculptor, or Avenger of Zendikar. Now you have a massive army of goblins and natural resources to your disposal. 9. Adeliz the Cinderwind. Adeliz is a 2/2 human wizard that costs 1 generic red-blue, and it reads Flying Haste. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, wizards you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Now, you can see that this ability is very powerful. And our main strategy is to get tons of wizards onto the battlefield and pump them up with cheap cantrips like Opt. If we cast enough of these spells, we can get an army of 7/7 wizards that are about to deal fatal damage to our opponents. We can also add cards that trigger when we cast our spells like Archmage Emeritus or Young Pyromancer. Oh well, would you look at that? Now we're about to kill our opponents with 10 wizards. You know, that's just crazy. Number 8 on the list, we have Sarevok Deathbringer. Sarevok is a 3/4 human knight that costs 3 generic black and reads at the beginning of each player's end step, if no permanents left the battlefield this turn, that player loses X life, where X is Sarevok's power. And then you can also choose a background. Now, this ability is amazing because it's like bolting your opponents in the face every turn. However, we don't want to be hurt by our own commanders, so put some sacrifice outlets in our deck, like Cabal Therapist or Carrion Feeder, and then get some cards that get value out of dying. We can also pair our commander with a background like Agent of the Shadow Thieves to use his full potential. Now your opponents are at 1 health, and you haven't even attacked them yet. I wonder why. Number 7, Balmor Battle Mage Captain. Balmor is a 1/3 bird wizard that costs red, blue, and reads Flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, creatures you control get +1/+0 and trample. It's practically the same thing as Adeliz, but in a more explosive manner. Balmor gives all of our creatures trample, making our creatures very deadly. And we can get more value from casting our spells since Balmor doesn't just affect wizards. And so there you have it. Our 1/1s are now 15/1s with trample. Number 6, Svella Ice Shaper. Svella is a 2/4 legendary snow creature with creature types Troll Warrior. It costs 1 generic red-green and reads 3. Tap. Create a colorless snow artifact token named Icy Manalith with tap, add 1 mana of any color. 6 generic, red, green. Tap. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may cast a spell from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. You might be wondering what we're going to do with him. Well, we're going to use his ability to ramp with Icy Manaliths. And then, we're going to lock our opponents by destroying all their lands. And if they have no mana, they can't do anything. But we can, since we have all these Icy Manaliths. So with those Icy Manaliths, just get a massive creature, swing in for lots of damage, and win. 5. Asmo Rano Martika Diced. Yes, I did pronounce that correctly. However, I will refer to her as Asmo for the rest of the explanation. Asmo is a 3/3 human wizard that can only be cast if you discarded a card this turn, and paid black or red to cast her. She reads, as long as you've discarded a card this turn, you may play black or red to cast this spell. When Asmo Rano Martika Diced enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a card named the Underworld Cookbook. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. Sacrifice 2 foods, target creature deals 6 damage to itself. So this can actually be a really fun strategy, because we discard cards to get value, and then we create food, and then with the food we kill anything on the battlefield. And then, you know, it's a really funny way to win the game because we're going to use Stuffy Doll or Brash Taunter and just start dealing damage to Stuffy Doll and Brash Taunter so that then that damage gets spread across our opponents, which is amazing. Number 4, Light-Paws, Emperor's Voice. Light-Paws is a 2/2 Fox Advisor that costs 1 generic white and reads, whenever an aura enters a battlefield under your control, if you cast it, you may search your library for an aura card with mana value less than or equal to that aura and with a different name than each aura you control. Put that card onto the battlefield attached to Light-Paws, Emperor's Voice, then shuffle. Essentially, we're trying to put as many auras as we can onto Light-Paws so that we can transform our little fox into a 9-tails monster. Slap in some auras to give protection, bonuses, maybe some stacks, and you're good to go. 3. Mizzix of the Magnus. Mizzix is a 2/2 Goblin Wizard that costs 2 generic, blue, red, and reads, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value greater than the number of experience counters you have, you get an experience counter. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each experience counter. So our strategy is pretty simple. We cast instants and sorceries, put experience counters on Mizzix, and then our spells cost like, I don't know, 1 million less to cast. Then we draw large amounts of cards with Blue Sun Zenith, and kill our opponents with Comet Storm. Number 2, Carth the Lion. Carth is a 3/5 human warrior that costs 2 generic, black, green, and reads, whenever Carth the Lion enters the battlefield or a planeswalker you control dies, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may reveal a planeswalker card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And best part, Planeswalker's loyalty abilities you activate cost an additional +1 to activate. It's very, very powerful because in our deck, we're just gonna slap in tons of Planeswalkers with ultimate abilities, obviously, like Garruk, Primal Hunter. And then we can activate those abilities as fast as possible with Carth's ability that says, you know, all activated abilities cost an additional +1 to activate. And now we have 10 6/6 worms, 10 emblems that literally just say we win the game, and a massive grin on our face. Our best commander for building on a budget, Talrand, Sky Summoner. Talrand is a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard that costs 2 generic, blue, and reads, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. The reason why this is number 1 on our list is because it makes weak 1-cent cards look powerful. Talrand just creates tons of drakes. You don't even need other creatures or enchantments for this deck to work because Talrand is so powerful. Making a deck with this guy can cost you a minimum of $1. That's correct, a minimum of $1. Somebody did it. I'll link that video in the description. You don't even need TCG player to make a good Talrand deck. You probably have the cards at home while your opponents come with their $2,000 decks. You can come with your 50-cent one and win by attacking with tons of drakes. Imagine if 20 drakes would come to attack you. Imagine how terrifying that would be. Thank you so much for watching this video. It would really help if you could like and subscribe, and I really hope you'll beat your friends with these commanders. All deck lists will be linked, and not all of them are budget, so you might need to make some cuts.